it's, apart from it's being late?
Well, growers are saying it's being late. I just wonder, looking around some crops just recently, maybe it's more on time of old. That's what I'm thinking. But you look, it's
so what you're saying is all the other ones we've been having recently are early.
Well, last year it was it was early, and then it was warm through this period, and then it got cold through the summer. We end up with a late actual harvest. But this year I think we're going to have a bang, bang, bang. And let's hope we don't have any spring frosts, or too many of them coming through this next sort of 6 weeks. A lot of snow on the mountains, and a full El Nino year. There's no doubt in my mind about that now. Westerly conditions coming over, raining on the west coast, dry on the east coast, and it clears up at night at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and down comes the cold temperatures. So that's going to be our life for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So hopefully we'll get through that, Rob.
North Island, how are they looking?
North Island's pretty blooming dry on the very east coast, but gosh, through the central North Island, they've had a lot of rain lately, a lot of rain. And I actually was through there recently, and good grass coverage. And looking quite a picture, but very much wet underfoot. So, but they've got supplementary feed going there, and of course they've had some dry times further north, and the east coast looks to be heading to what we're going to be into down here in the South Island, a pretty dry summer.
A few weeks ago you told us to wait as far as herbicides are concerned. Are we looking about timing now?
We are. We're perfect for timing now. All the residual herbicides, if they're going to go on, the real tough ones, they will be on by now. But now the knockdowns come in, and because of the slowness of the season, there is only a little bit of weed out there because the guys have managed to keep their what we call understory, under apples and under grapes and those sort of crops, quite clean. However, the soil temperatures are rising reasonably rapidly now, so things are going to move quite quickly. Suggests that the glyphosates and the ammonium glufosinate and those sort of knockdown materials are the ones to go for.
And what about copper? Is it too late for that?
No, just coming up for it really, Rob, in conjunction with sulphur with some crops, sulphur and copper, but copper mainly to take that bacteria out of the plant tissue to minimise frost protection, to minimise the bacteria. The bacteria freezes before water does, so it brings the temperature within the tissue of the leaf down quite quickly. If we can remove that by applying a bacteriostat such as copper, that helps quite considerably. Got to have a look at the conditions going forward and say, look, Thursday, Friday could be a real frosty morning, potentially so. Let's put our copper on today, and it takes about 72 hours to really maximise the removal of the bacteria.
And the other thing, I guess, is to make sure that the grass between rows is trimmed.
It's trimmed right down short, or cultivated. Sometimes growers actually cultivate. Another thing that we're suggesting to growers is that they put a glyphosate, just a light rate, 2 litres a hectare, down the rows. It blows out the weeds there for that period of time for about a month, and then the grasses and whatever, and then they come away again. They actually do survive that. So that's another way of protecting. It's get that trash. The trash pulls down the cold temperatures. If you can remove that or eliminate that trash, the cold temperatures aren't as great.
So even if you just put a mulcher through?
Even if you put mulcher through, ideal. In fact, it opens it up and allows moisture to go in the ground, not necessarily go out of the ground. Now, that's a bit Irish, but it's true.
I know what you're meaning. Now, the other thing is sort of more broad acre, things like the crops, onions and such.
Yeah, well, the crop, the onions going in now. Potatoes are just starting to go in. Ground preparation is fantastic, really. The carrot guys, the potato guys have just finished picking their crops probably in the last month or so, and they've had a wonderful season. Unfortunately, the European prices aren't smart, so their prices have been back a little bit. But in all intents and purposes, we're actually going into the spring from a horticultural perspective in very good condition, because 9.5 out of 10 crops are covered by monitored irrigation. So there's not the problem of being affected by drought. You can add water to a crop, but you certainly can't if you haven't got it, one, or if you have too much of it, that's when you don't need it. So we can manage our crops a lot better in a dry year. They end up being quality, and colour comes through too.
Yeah, what do you do if it gets all soggy because you have a very, very wet season?
Yeah, well, there's not a heap lot you can do, to be honest. If the ground's tight and you know it's tight, you should have applied gypsum or something like that to open it up a little bit and allow a bit of that drainage to happen and the nutrients to come free. But if it's blocked up and logged up, the plants do not cope with that. They usually have what we call dozy crops, especially like some grapes or apples or any sort of tree fruit. So there's not a lot you can do about it. However, most of the horticultural crops are, you know, horses for courses, so they're on land that is reasonably free draining. Except when you get to the Moochie Hills and Nelson around there with clays underneath, those guys know how to manage with gypsum and also side cutting of the roots and letting the gypsum and lime go into those cracks and get into the root system and actually free things up a bit.
Because I know that if you have a pot plant, it doesn't like wet feet, and you leave it sitting in water.
Yeah, well, it
didn't like it.
No, I mean, you can imagine like us sitting in a pot full of water all day. It's not very comfortable.
Make your feet go friendly, wouldn't it?
It would really, yes, it would. So it's the same sort of principle, because the temperature stays cool, and they don't do their normal growing, and they don't transpire the water. They've got too much water in them to transpire it all off. So therefore, the photosynthesis doesn't work in a plant. It's pretty basic, simple stuff. But one of the other things, Rob, is that there are some nitrogen fertilisers going on at the moment. What I urge is the growers check the nitrate leaching, where they are in terms of their numbers per year. Most horticultural crops around about the 10 kilograms per year, and that's quite manageable, and you'll get a good growth applied correctly. So don't overdo the nitrogen at this time of the year. You're not doing the land any good, and you're not doing your pocket any good either.
Paperwork, accountability and traceability.
More and more important. I was just at a situation last week where we were going through some of the processes, and we need to step up. The international markets are really calling for, I mean, look, they are forms of trade barriers. Anything that they can put in front of us to make it difficult to get our produce to where we have to get it. And traceability is becoming number one. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And that's traceability not just for chemical application, that's for every input a farmer does and how he takes it from A to B, what sort of trucks it in, all this sort of thing. So it's tracing and tracking. Tracing is for those inputs you put into the crop, and tracking is for moving that potato from A to B.
I didn't think we were big enough in the world market for people to worry about us.
Well, we worry about it because we are so reliant on our exports. You know, 90% of what we produce in New Zealand can't be consumed because we haven't got the population. So we need to take our produce to the other side of the world or up into Asia or whatever, and they are becoming a little more fussy. And the good thing about it to date, touch wood, and may we continue this process, they look upon New Zealand as being clean and green, as much as I don't like using that cliche, because we have got, at this point, good track and traceability, and we need to keep that up. We need to continue to be leaders in that area.
So it's mainly driven by the consumer rather than by the governments?
Without a doubt. Well, governments will put laws in front of you to make sure you go through the steps. No, consumers are demanding it, and more so today than ever before.
Europe, what's happening there briefly? Because that's been a bit of a problem with oversupply.
Well, it is, but I mean, they're getting oversupply of people now, so hopefully those people will one day get something to eat.
They don't have any money.
Hopefully they get something to eat, but no, it's pretty serious still, Rob. The blockade into Russia is still quite negatively affecting the marketplace. Milk's awash, fresh vegetables, well, interesting enough, I'll change that a little bit. Fruit and vegetables on the sort of west of Germany is in pretty good shape, but east of Germany, getting towards Poland, getting towards Russia, they've had a heck of a dry summer, and actually some of their production is quite low. So there's a little bit of reprieve there.
There is just a wee
little bit of reprieve. So maybe there's a tunnel, and maybe we'll find the light one day.